Hey friends, welcome back. This is part 2 of the collapse tutorial, and it's going to be the middle section and the bottom section of the crease pattern. So first thing we're going to do is, this is the right side, I guess. We're going to start with these middle sections. And they act very similar to what we did up here, just the lie stretches, but I'll kind of show you how I like to do it and you can follow along. All right, so similar, we're going to find the point of our crease pattern, or of this flap, I should say. And so that's right here. And so we're just finding the point that's right here. And we're going to collapse along it. And it just follows the mountain valleys. It's pretty much the same structure as we've seen previously. And again, if there's any structure that you see here and don't know what I'm talking about, refer to my crease pattern class to find out and practice what these are. All right. So once we have that in line, you just kind of follow the grid all the way down. So I'm doing the side that's towards the arms first before the bottom half after the point. And that's because it'll just line things up a little bit easier. So go along this crease pattern. You should know how to do these, or you should have done this previously, previous experience in the past. So nothing too difficult or confusing. And as you see, it lines up right along here. And this part collapses down, and then the rest of it will collapse down with the hat. And this is going to be a little transition where the hat will start to lay in hat form. It can still be folded up like this, but the structure will be there for the neck, kind of. And then we're going to do part of the other side. Now, it's a little bit easier to do this part of the middle section along with the bottom. So we're just going to crease up to this corner. The corner, the crease pattern would be up to here before we do the other side. So this, and I'll show you why it's easier to do it. The structure isn't difficult, it's more of a physical challenge where the creases get small and there's just a lot of creases going on at once. So I found this a little easier to do it in that manner. So right about that corner, that's all we need to do. And we're gonna do the same thing on this side. So I'll show it one more time, just so you guys can kind of fold along. Make sure you're doing it correctly in case you're confused. So we're gonna find a point, hold the corner right there so we have something to grab. Fold along the grid, and just follow this ally stretch all the way to the top with the diagonal. Like that. And this will finish the collapse over here. Now the paper I'm using is Unru, so it treats the creases very well. So that's why I am able to fold them so quickly. The paper is very responsive. If you're using something like single tissue that's less responsive, feel free to take your time. Make sure all your pleats are aligned. There's no need to rush. The cleaner, these are the cleaner the shaping is going to be because we use these pleats to shape. Right, so we're almost done with this middle section. Again, not too difficult at all, you know. I'm just commentating in case there is confusion, since I folded this model many times, or if I'm not able to show something properly on camera. But there, we have both sides, and that's essentially all you need to do for now with the middle, as like I said, we're gonna finish this section off all together. So yeah, we're gonna start from the bottom now and kind of work our way, and this kind of collapses all in at the same time. So first thing we're gonna do is get the structure for the face. So the face is made up of these lines right here. They're just kind of flaps in the middle. And again, if you haven't heard of that, I use that term in my crease pattern class, so go check that out if these are difficult. But find your creases right here. And normally you're gonna wanna do this on both sides since this is in the middle. And it'll collapse properly when you do both at the same time. So I'm just finishing these grid lines all the way to the top so that we can actually grab this flap like this, all the way up. And then there's valley, 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 valley. So we're gonna do the adjacent grid line as well. If you're experienced with crease patterns, you probably don't even have to be following along. Just trust yourself with solving the crease pattern. But for those who aren't super familiar with crease patterns, just try to follow these mountain lines up, which you can also see in the crease pattern. And we're gonna fold these valley folds right here. And how we do that, I'm gonna hold it at this angle. You can already see that these are the, I guess, edges that we want, and they're already able to start being pinched. So to complete the fold, it's easiest to just pinch the top into a flap that you can hold onto very carefully like that. And you're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And by doing that, you're actually creasing the valley folds underneath it without focusing too hard on the valley folds. And that allows the face. Now, sometimes that happens as paper gets trapped and you get a funny corner like here. So you don't want that in your actual collapse, so just fix that if any paper gets trapped, as it makes the collapse a lot cleaner. Although we will shape it out if the corner's not entirely perfect. We'll just do the best you can. And for now, our face, we can just squeeze these two layers together, and that'll help us collapse a little bit easier. But once we have that, there's a couple units we can notice, especially on the crease pattern. So we have the lie stretch, which is going down here. We have the ones going this way. There's two going down this way, which makes it a little bit more difficult. But this one connects to the hat, and this one finishes off as part of the middle section. And so we're gonna implement those last. So now we're gonna go bottom up to the middle. And we're gonna start with this side. So it's the right side of the samurai, but it's gonna be left side of the crease pattern, I guess. And we're gonna go to this corner. So we're gonna start with the lie stretch up here. And this is pretty simple. It's just the same as we did with the sword. And we're just gonna go up. And now you notice it runs into this one. So you can either do them one at a time or do them at the same time. I normally do part way up of this side, and then I switch over. So you'll see I'll collapse up to pleat a little bit, and then just so I don't forget anything, I do this side. And don't forget that there's hinges here because we have this flap folded across. So you see right here, it just is a regular lie stretch, nothing, just folded through the layer, nothing special, nothing crazy there. And that's gonna be the same thing for up here. There's a pleat that we had. Like this. And just keep going on your way up. And as you see, our creases line all the way up there. It's folding through the flap. There's a little hinge. This pleat in like that. So and you'll see it's starting to come together quite well. All right, and now we've reached the section that's maybe the most physically challenging part, and I'll show it on the crease pattern. That's this thin section right here. And so this might be confusing for you if it's your first time folding it, but really try to orient yourself so that you know where all these grid lines, which way they should be facing, as well as the mountain valleys between them, which will help just because of your grid. But you're going to want to do the Elias stretches at the same time. So you see we have up here with this one. So if I start it, we have our grid mountain, mountain, and then diagonal mountain. And that connects to the valley and the diagonal mountain here. And so that would look something like this. And when you see the pattern, if you can replicate it, then it'll make a lot more sense as you go up. But the initial trying to understand it, it's a little bit weird. It's just a zigzag, basically, all the way up. But just as there's a lot of grid lines and diagonal lines going through, it makes it a little bit more difficult to keep track of which crease you're folding. Or if you try to get one to start to collapse, you'll accidentally mess up the other. But so long as you're careful, as you can see, I'm just poking in the valley folds with my fingernail. Since I pre-creased everything mountain, I don't have to worry about the mountains, but all the valleys. All right, so my camera randomly shut off there, but we're pretty much all done with this unit right here. So like what I was saying, you know, you just want to poke in the valleys, trust your mountain folds, and look at the crease pattern to make sure you're folding along the right creases. And it'll just be this zigzag pattern like this, and it'll allow it to collapse down. Now, obviously it won't happen until you also collapse the other side fully, so I'll just show that so you guys can see this on video again in case I was out of frame for anything, and so on. So let's just collapse this side and you guys can watch me. So I'm going to start from the bottom again, and I collapse these together just at the same time. So this. And just continue upwards. And I lost a little bit in the corner there. There you go. And we're just going to do this one up until we get to that point where it gets a little bit more difficult. Alright, so that starts right about here. So we're just going to make sure our grids are all correct. And start going up with the other set. So I'm going to open up so I see both. And then we're just going to carefully poke in what needs to be mountain, or what needs to be valley. And then continue along folding, just like that. So see how I just poked it until the creases lined up? And we're going to continue that all the way up. And so this might be a little bit different if you're used to traditional origami where, you know, most things lie flat at first as you fold. Here I'm kind of folding in the air and folding without actually creasing anything down or pressing anything down. So that might be new to you. So it's a good skill to practice, and if you're not used to it, just keep going at it and you'll get more and more comfortable with these kinds of movements. But as you can see, once we have that side done, We can squish everything together, nice and flat. Obviously the layers will probably stick out because there's a lot of layers we collapse down. But you can see that our hat is now what is the focus in the middle, right here. And just make sure all the creases are put back together in case anything got unfolded a little bit. And boom, I'll show you if we lie this flat, our face flips up just like this. That's our face. And then here's the chest area. And then there's the arms with the swords. The flaps that were the middle part, this is the battle skirt type thing. Not exactly sure what the official name of those are. And then the legs are right here. So now the last thing to do is implement that pleat in the middle of the chest, made up of these 1 unit, I guess, Elias stretch type things. And the only difficult part about this is you're going to be folding through a lot of layers in the back. So not only does it pleat in the front, but obviously there's going to be consequence folds in the back. Now this is going to be a little bit of shaping, but I kind of get away with not actually having a huge thick flap in the back by just pivoting these sideways a little bit. So I'll show you what I mean when we go for it, but we're going to try to pleat this as cleanly as possible. So find your Elias stretch that you pre-crease, which is right here, and all these should be mountain. So all you gotta do is open it up, press down, and as you notice, when you start to fold it, it's going to puff out the center. And you're gonna wanna do that on the other side too, so that you can grab it without creasing through anything you don't want to. I'm just gonna push this and let it come out. And we collapse this section. And normally once I have both those kind of pushed, I like to grab this whole middle pleat and make sure it's closed around our units. So you can see them right here and right there. And just make sure they're clean. And then adjacent to it, you're gonna wanna grab all your flaps in the back section. So I'm gonna put them together like this, like that, right there. And that's going to become our rear flap. So I like to just crimp it a little bit with my thumbs. Again, it doesn't have to be a whole lot, just enough so that the pleat can complete, hat can complete like this basically, so you can grab it and fold down. I know I'm not showing this the greatest, but should be pretty just self-evident in the crease pattern. And then this is the desired result. Now in the back, we have these extra flaps here. I'm not even gonna worry about them too much. You just need to, I guess, kind of acknowledge their existence, because they kind of go away once we start to shaping on the battle skirt, as this is going to pivot sideways and we're going to spread the layers, and it's just going to kind of do its own thing. But if you want, you can crease it down. But you know, we're going to change that later. It'll kind of wrap around like that. You can kind of see from the side. But just kind of have them here as the paper will remember that they exist, and then to just re-establish that pleat, you kind of just need to crease it down a little bit. But yeah, we're going to shape this up even more later, so I'm not even too worried about the front pleat. But that is the collapse. I guess the only other thing I normally do before I start shaping is in the back, we're just going to orientate all the flaps. So instead of the arms being down, I just like to swing them out to the side like a T. And so I just do that by kind of folding upwards, kind of swivel the arms upwards, trying to do it at an angle where the hat's not blocking the camera so y'all can see. So that kind of makes a long flat line along the back, and the arms stick out to the side like this. And then the last thing is for the swords. So normally I have the sword held in the right hand, So this is the thick flap, this is the thin flap. You do that by just turning both flaps at the same time, 90 degrees, and it just push down, and that kind of just pivots the flap and swivels it so that it forms like this. And then normally this is the sheath, so same thing, you just pivot the flap like that, and boom, there you have it. And so that's the full collapse. Now you're all done, and that's the creases from the crease pattern. Like I said, there is a second crease pattern showing the hands, but we're going to cover the hands and the thumb in the shaping part because you don't really have to collapse this. The crease pattern just kind of shows the reference on what you need to do to get the structure, but I'll show you what I do to get the fingers in without having pre-creased this before. So great job for making it through the collapse tutorial. Hopefully you were able to understand everything, but if there were things I missed or brushed over too quickly, feel free to hit me up either in the comments or on Instagram. If you need personal help, I can kind of help you out there. Other than that, look forward to the shaping tutorial. There's a lot to shape to get this guy into looking like a samurai I'm about to show on screen. But that part is a lot of fun. So thanks for watching and thanks for folding along, and I'll see you in the next video.
All this origami, all this origami, all this origami got me going kamikaze now.